bio, and it says there, Dr. Paul CORBIER went to college at Andrews University, my alma mater, where he became the co-founder and president of Pre-Med Minority Club before graduating in 1989. I was there until 1999, so a little bit ahead of me. He then went to medical school in Lansing, Michigan. During the time, he and his brother volunteered at the Lansing Haitian Refugee Center. After residency, he became board certified in internal medicine. His first medical practice was at a large multi-specialty clinic in Florida. During this time, he was very active in the community. His medical work included. So he's a medical missionary worker, of course, speaker, spokesman for sickle cell and other things in Florida, speaker in various TV and radio shows, health broadcasts in Polk County and Florida and other places. And at around the time, he served as medical director of a drug counseling program in Winter Haven, Florida. And it goes on in 2005, private practice in Alabama, Acts of Peace Ministries being a part of that. Dr. Paul was led to Kansas, where he served as the state medical director for the prison system there. After working in Kansas for 6 years, in 2018, went on to medical missionary work and brain restoration clinic in South Carolina, a state right next to us here. Their unique practice offers a double dose of compassionate and competent care offered by identical Christian Haitian twin doctors. I like that. I'm going to say that again. Their unique practice offers a double dose of compassionate and competent care offered by identical Christian Haitian twin brothers. Born-Ages, I say, sons of thunder. Of course, you're not going to call fire down from heaven to destroy a nation like John and James wanted to do. But the sons of thunder, we could call these twin doctors. Now, JEAN-RONEL CORBIER, bio. Dr. JEAN-RONEL CORBIER is a medical doctor who is board certified in neurology with special qualifications in child neurology. He works with pediatric as well as adult patients with various neurological conditions. And that is some education that is way over my head. Dr. CORBIER earned his medical degree in 1995 from the College of Human Medicine at Michigan State University in East Lansing, Michigan. He completed electives in adult and child neurology at Johns Hopkins Medical Center in Baltimore, Maryland, the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. With all those names of those medical institutions here, you can see this doctor, both of them, well qualified. While in medical school, Dr. JEAN-RONEL CORBIER also enrolled in an interdisciplinary health and humanities graduate program, during which he spent a summer in England, University of London, studying medical ethics and medical history. He completed an internship and pediatric residency at Michigan State University and went on to do his adult neurology training at the University of Cincinnati in Ohio, followed by a child neurology fellowship training at the Children's Hospital Medical Center at Cincinnati. Is that a fellows program? Oh yes, it says so right here. As a senior fellow, that's right. He was placed in charge of the neurology clerkship and taught neurology to the medical students at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Dr. CORBIER has been in clinical practice since 2000. He has been recognized for his work on autism, that's awesome, and has been invited to speak at national conferences on this topic. He has shared his work on TV, just like his brother, radio, and through various lectures and workshops. Dr. CORBIER is author of 6 books and is working on his 7th book, which will be co-authored with his twin brother, Dr. Paul CORBIER. All right. Born in New York City to Haitian parents, Dr. JEAN-RONEL CORBIER moved with his family to Africa and lived there for 7 years doing medical missionary work in several countries. That's what God has called us to do. And of course, Dr. CORBIER is currently the founder of the CEO of the Brain Restoration Clinic with his brother in Indian Land, South Carolina, which is devoted to do the recovery of various brain-related conditions using innovative, multimodal, and multidisciplinary approaches. He works there with his twin brother, Dr. CORBIER, in an internist who joined his practice 1 year ago. Together, they collaborate with a team of very passionate, like-minded, and forward-thinking medical providers, therapists, and researchers. In addition to conventional approaches to neurological problems, Dr. JEAN-RONEL CORBIER is dedicated to the study of nutrition and its role in brain-related disorders. He also focuses on the brain's ability to heal itself via a process called neuroplasticity. Wow. Dr. CORBIER is the founder and chair of 501c3 nonprofit organization called Brain Restoration Ministries, BRM, provides funding for clinical endeavors that support brain restoration. So this afternoon, youth, you're going to hear from two men of God, two twin brothers, Boanerges, sons of thunder, whom God is using as great physicians to do the work of medical evangelism in this world until Jesus comes. God bless you all, youth, and God bless you, doctors, as you present to us what God has laid upon your heart and what the Holy Spirit has given you wisdom to share with us this afternoon. Welcome, and may God bless you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Ryan and Sister Evelyn, and everyone listening. We thank you. It's truly a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you and to share that which God has placed in our hearts. And as Pastor Ryan was reading our own bio, we could only, we feel humbled. We just have been led by where God has led us, and that there's nothing more rewarding than to be led and to have a servant spirit to doing God's will. And so when the opportunity came to share with our youth things that we all need to plan for as young people for the future, your future, that makes a big difference, and for God's kingdom, then it's only a privilege for us to share those things with you. I understand that we want to cover folks in the younger grades as early as 6th grade or probably before that, but if you are already in high school, you really need to listen because the sooner we prepare ourselves for college and for what is really what we consider as ministry and missionary work and impacting the world around us, the better it is for us. So that's what we're talking about: readiness, college readiness, preparation, how to think through certain things and prepare ourselves mentally, physically. Now, we're going to give you an overview. We do talk a lot about health usually, but we're going to step back this time and talk to you about some real life experiences as we've gone through the process. And there's going to be two parts. The first part will be on things to know about the system in general, and then we'll have a second part to make it even more intimate. So I thought that the easiest way to do this is first to talk about the college environment, atmosphere. Some of this may be a review to some of you. And let's just go down the alphabet. There's so many aspects to this that we might as well go down through the alphabet to make sure we cover a few things. And the A in our preparation stands for academics. So the first thing I'm going to say is, whatever we do, if you do want to tackle the college life, whether you're in elementary school, middle school, or high school, if it is your endeavor to then step into the college sphere, one of the most important things is this first letter, A, for academics. Whatever we do, we want to make sure that we're supporting and we're checking our academic process leading to college and being fully prepared. What is academics? Academics simply means that we're actually focusing our studying patterns and how to reason rather than just merely practical or technical skills. Some people want to jump right into technical skills, and that's okay too. But if you're going to college, you're going to be studying and understanding how to reason so that you can tackle a career. And we'll talk to you a little bit about how to make sure that that God is leading you in a particular direction. Again, there's nothing more gratifying than to know that you're being led and that you're obedient to God's prompting. So the first thing we think is A, for academics. We want to make sure that you know to have a strong academic background and career and to prepare for it. I turn it over to my brother for B. We're going down the alphabet.
Okay, so B, before I tackle that, I would like to thank Pastor Ryan for his nice introduction. Thank you so much. And Sister Evelyn and her staff for putting together the college readiness. So B, my brother talked about A for academics, B for beginning. Beginning and B just means that we need to start preparing for college now, not next year, not later on, but right now. In fact, when it comes to college, when it comes to life in general, a key concept is preparation, always being prepared. The more prepared you are, the better off it is. So let's say you're in 6th grade, 7th grade. That's not too early to be prepared for college. College is a major step, major transition, so it's okay to start to think about what college is, what type of experiences you can foresee, and things like that. So B for beginning means that you start to think and prepare about it right now, whether you're in 9th grade, 10th grade, or even 6th grade. So B is for beginning and preparing right now. So Paul, I turn it over to you for C.
Yep, I like that we start right away because there's a lot to prepare for. This C, and we're going down the alphabet, C stands for checklist. Why not have a checklist for your college preparation efforts? And that will allow you to successfully apply to any college you might want to go to. Even knowing what college to enroll in and how to start preparing, again, early, you should have a checklist. Maybe have a binder or folder checklist of things, and you try to hit each target. So it's all about that kind of discipline and rigor, but it'll pay off. And so it could be a long list to begin with, and every year, maybe as early as 6th grade, you start having general things, and then next grade, when you finish middle school, you start continuing to check things off your freshman year in high school, leading up to your senior year in high school. So if you have that checklist and you're working on different items, then you will be prepared by the time you're nearing time for college. So C for checklist.
All right, then going down the list, D is for dual enrollment. Dual enrollment. We want everyone listening to us, all of the young folk, to be very ambitious. So there is something called dual enrollment, also called concurrent enrollment. And that's when someone who's in high school, maybe toward the end of high school, starts taking college or university courses simultaneously while you're in high school. So the question is, why even think of dual enrollment? Well, first of all, this is a concept that started all the way back in 1955 at the University of Connecticut. The provost, Albert Waugh, had a belief that by the time you become a senior in high school, you might start getting bored and disinterested in learning. And, he didn't want that. That's what we now call senioritis. If you haven't heard that term, you sure will. So senioritis, but he also wanted to give kids a head start for the future. And so that's how the concept of combining high school with college courses came about. And of course, if you take college courses, then you can get some credits that are applied. We want you to think about some of these things early. Like we said back in the B for beginning and preparation, that entails thinking ahead and processes like dual enrollment. I didn't think of dual enrollment at that stage. I did do it a little bit later on. When I was in medical school, I also concurrently enrolled in a graduate program in health and humanities, which for me was a good balance between art and medicine and science. But I had to, at that point, think about it beforehand. Is this something that I could do? Is this something that I could manage? Would this enhance my learning? Would that clash with my work-life balance or not? So youngsters, I want you to think about dual enrollment. It's not for everyone, but some people may benefit. Some of you may benefit from this dual enrollment. So Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you for E.
Yep. So E for extracurricular activities. Let me backtrack a little bit. When my brother was talking about dual enrollment, I think AP courses and advanced placement is the same concept of taking advanced classes leading up to college, and you can get credit for those too. So, but E for extracurricular activities. Young folks, we're trying to go down the alphabet with some points that we think are important for you. Extracurricular. Stay in touch with your community. As Pastor Ryan read, you heard that we tried our best during our development. This is all this is life and training and development to do things in the community. We never hesitated, no matter how busy we were, we tried to carve out some time to do things in our community. So one example that was mentioned was being involved in the Haitian refugee camp when that came out. Now here again, we were already, actually we were beginning med school, but because at your age, we were in Africa. We weren't even in this system. But as soon as we came to the States and started to go through college and so forth, we had plenty of activities. Of course, we balanced it out with our work and academics, but Haitian refugee camp was something we did. And keeping in mind our profession and helping different people, we were actually preparing ourselves while having a life of service. That's why we were called to be here on earth. And so it was very gratifying. So it's important because as you develop yourselves, there are skills that you cannot find in a textbook. And so you need real life experience and just being more involved, even as you are preparing for college, really prepares you a little bit better. It makes what you're learning stick better. So E for extracurricular activities.
All right. So next we have F for financial issues. The big F. We cannot escape the financial responsibilities. College could be expensive, and the sooner you can think about financial matters and how you're going to pay for this, or how someone's going to pay or help you pay for it, the better. Now, one advice is some people work through college, and I'll say that my brother and I, we did a combination of a lot of things. We worked 1, 2, sometimes 3 jobs while we were doing pre-medical courses at Andrews University. Yes, we took some student loans, but I want you to also think about getting good grades and getting scholarships, and even knowing how to apply for scholarships. And it may be that someone else in this college preparation series will talk about the financial piece if they haven't already, but just know that whether pertaining to college or other things in the future, it's very important to get the financial piece in order. But then there's also a G. So you're going to go on with the G, Paul.
All right. So we're trying to make the alphabet work. That's all we're doing here before part 2, which is even more important than this part. But, anytime you're talking about school, preparation for higher learning, the word GPA is going to come up sooner or later, right? So GPA, or grade point average, we have to think about that. Now, GPA is not everything. Getting a 4 point or more GPA is not everything, but getting a 1 GPA is not everything either. What I'm trying to say is you might as well try to get the best grade point average as possible, because that has to do with your selection and the admission to top colleges, if such is your goal. And let's say you want to get into very good college. A lot of times they'll look at not just the GPA or the grade point average or how you're performing, but that's one indicator for certain colleges. So you really want to work on that. God wants us to give our best for Him. You see what I mean? And there's much more to higher learning than your GPA, but it's one determinant factor for admission. So you want to always keep in mind improving on your grades.
Okay. H is for honors courses. That is always important. I think if you're aiming high, you're ambitious, and you plan to take honors courses, this can only help you. My brother talked about GPA as well. Just positioning yourself in such a way that later on, when you're looking for a particular job, career, or acceptance into a particular school, Ivy League, for example, that you could have certain things that may help you. You know, for example, a certain amount of honors courses, and like my brother said, GPA. Some schools may offer it, others don't. So these are things we also want you to think about. So, Paul, what about the I?
All right, the I think we're progressing nicely down the alphabet there. The I stands for interview. You could do something as simple as interview people who have the career that you're interested in. Let's say you want to become a pastor. Well, you can interview a pastor. You could say, hey, I know you're very busy. Could you give me a few moments of your time? I'd like to ask you a few questions. And they'll be only too glad to help you. If you want to become an engineer, you're trying to explore that, talk to an engineer, get his take on things or her take on things. So if you want to be an artist of some sort, or musician or whatnot, then you can find someone and ask them questions, interview them, and you'll get a lot of insight. That's what you need, insight, and that'll help you gear towards that preparation, know what courses to take, how to prepare, because those types of decisions matter for the next few decades of life.
So going down the alphabet, the next letter is J. J for job. Some of you might be thinking, well, what about working while in college? Now, when we think of working and finding a job, let's say a part-time job, immediately you might think, maybe I need to think about a job to help with finances, to get a little extra money, and so forth. Yes, that could be one aspect, and some people work to make some extra cash or to help pay for college, which that could be expensive depending on which school you go to. But there are other reasons to work. So, for example, early on, my brother and I, we knew that we wanted to go into medicine. So we first actually volunteered to work at a hospital. And I still remember the name of the hospital. It was called Berrien General Hospital. I'm sure it has a different name now. It was probably 20, 30 minutes or so from Andrews University. And we did some things that might look a little bit menial. For example, we worked as orderlies, or now what's called nursing assistants. But we loved it, every single second of it. And to this day, I'll say that was one of the best things we did. Not for the money, because initially we did it and volunteered, but then later we applied and got a job there. But it was just so we can see different aspects of patient care, even if it meant doing things like changing bedpans. That's right, we did that too, or some other things that were a little more medical, like taking vital signs. But that helped us. That put us in close contact with patients. And later on, many years later, as we would become physicians, we could then relate better to patients, understand things. And we had other jobs there while we were at Andrews. My brother worked at the greenhouse, so he got to learn a lot about plants. I worked at the museum there, and that helped in many ways. We even did call porting when we were at Andrews University. One summer we went to Washington, D.C., and build a little bit our salesmanship. And so when you think of getting a job, it's not mandatory, but if you think of that, remember that if you have a part-time job in college, it can build experience, it can help you with your resume, it can allow you to explore interest levels in different fields. So think about that as well. So then that takes us to M.
M for mentor. So it's really time to identify, never too soon, a mentor, someone who could support you and really encourage you along the way. We really need encouragement. It could even be a family member who you identify as a mentor to prepare you as you think of entering the realms of college. It could be a community leader, it could be a teacher, it could be an elder in church, someone who you feel comfortable discussing your goals, your desires, even your dreams, your aspirations. That person probably should be good in the field that you're looking into, but not everyone who's good at what they do is necessarily a good mentor. You want someone who could listen to you, who can encourage you, someone who has good insight, who's a good communicator, who has a balanced view of things. So it's probably good to identify and have a mentor who could support you along the way.
So then R is for read. I don't think there's any way around it, but you must read, and read some more. Reading is very, very important because you may pick up a book and learn a few tips, concepts that'll broaden your vistas, will allow you to see things in a different way. It was Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes who said, "Your mind, once stretched by a new idea, could never regain its initial dimensions," which means that when you learn a new concept, then your mind, your brain changes through that process that Brother Ryan read, Pastor Ryan, about the neuroplasticity. Literally, your nerve cells adapt and change to take in that new information, and from then on, your brain is different. So every time we read, we learn new information, we assimilate facts and concepts that helps us to grow in our understanding of things. And that can only be done if you read, and read some more. So
All
Paul,
right.
what about V?
Yeah, let's go down the alphabet V. V, let's say that V stands for volunteering. So what if you propose to volunteer your time in an arena? So you don't even have to be paid for it. Spend a little time doing something that you'll learn something about. It doesn't even have to be directly in your field of interest. So let's say you want to become an accountant. Nothing says that you can't volunteer to go on a Maranatha trip and build a church somewhere, let's say in Belize or somewhere else, and perhaps interact with other people that have participated in that effort, and you will gain something out of it. So again, volunteering a little bit of your time earlier on in life will serve you well down the line. So we're almost done with the alphabet, so I turn it over to you, brother.
All right, so Z, last but not least. So Z is for zestfulness. One message I want to tell you, young people, is that when you get to college, you're going to have some of the best time in your lives, because college is a really fun time. You meet new people. For some people, you start to get into some serious dating relationships. You may start to take your studies more seriously than you ever have done before, and then look at some careers. It's really a very, very good time. And I know that in college, you'll have to take a lot of tests and, like I said, do a lot of reading. But when you're past that stage, as we are now, my brother and I, we sometimes look back and say, whoa, those college days, I wish I could take more courses, classes. It's a really, really fun time. And when you're in college, don't just study. Yes, you need to do that, but you also need to have fun. You need to do some things that'll help you be well balanced and bring a little smile to you, help you enjoy life a little bit. So Z is zestfulness. Don't forget that last point when you're in college. Work hard, but also relax, rest, and have fun.
All right, thank you. So now that we finished the alphabet, that was just the introduction. How about that? So if you were sleeping, you might as well wake up, because part B, is even more important. This is the deeper, more spiritual, more introspective part of our talk. Okay, it's the deeper part of this. So everything we said is common sense. You've heard it before, but now let's take a next step, because we really want you to put things in perspective. So the first, what we've been talking about is how to know about college life. This part is how to know about yourself and what God intends for you. Isn't that much deeper? And let me tell you something to give you a little hope and encouragement. Everything we told you so far, my brother and I had no preparation of the kind. Why? First of all, we weren't even in the country. How about that? Nor did we study, we didn't go through high school and part of middle school in an English system. We were in La Côte d'Ivoire in Ivory Coast. And before that, I believe we were in Burundi and studying in a whole different system. We didn't even know what a GPA was or AP classes or ACT or SAT testing, none of that. Why? Because we're in a whole new system. Not only that, but when we came here with the language, cultural differences, and everything else, we jumped right into the fire. We took a full load of classes, credits. We worked a couple jobs, and God still helped us to make it. Isn't that something? So there's really no excuse. If you've been here, you've been through the system, you know some of these things that we're talking about, you have a better chance of making it than we do. And yet, by God's grace, we were able to get through the system quite nicely. And why did we do it? It wasn't because of some of the things we've shared with you, because we simply didn't know any better. We weren't there. We weren't exposed to these preparatory things. Instead, God allowed us in the mission field to spend a little time to know ourselves. So part B is know yourself, know who you are. Let me tell you, if you know who you are, what you're about, you'll match up pretty well with the expectations. You'll know what major to take, what to major in, what career God has in store for you. If you spend a little quiet time with God, knowing what it is that He would want for you. If you know who you are, I'm suggesting you'll be better prepared for college. If you know whose you are, that you don't belong to yourself, but that you belong to God, your creator, and that He has a whole plan, a design. All you have to do is allow Him to play it out for you. You cannot but succeed. Now that makes sense. If God, Jeremiah, as Jeremiah says, traced out a plan for you, He says, I know the plans that I have for you, the projects, the career, the college, all that I have for you. All we have to do is trust Him, be faithful, do our part, and then we're on autopilot, basically. And so, John, you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yes, that's right. We have to know that, first of all, we have to know who we are, like my brother said, and that God's ultimately in control. If we have these basic facts in front of us, then He will help us to succeed. And in fact, I believe that God has given each one of us a special talent and a gift, whether we realize that or not. And why don't I share with you what mine is? Ever since I was very little, very young, I had a very strong sense of compassion. Now, in later years, I thought to myself, that's great, but what's the utility of compassion? You might say, well, that's good, that's biblical, but my sense of compassion is very, very strong. But it's only later, as I became a medical doctor, started working with kids with special needs, autism, and other things, that I could really understand how that compassion could help me go the extra mile. Everyone may have a different talent, a different gift, and you may use that if you first discover what it is, perhaps better than anyone else if you develop that. That becomes very handy, not just for college, but for a career, for life. And so we have to take time not only to search and identify these gifts, these talents that we have, but to see how we can use them to better mankind, to help mankind progress. And in fact, when we talk of college readiness and doing well in college, start thinking about what type of impact can you have in society, among people around you, in the world. If you think along those lines and you match that with your God-given talent that you have discovered, then you will do very well. And like the parable of the talents in the Bible, if you use the talents and gifts that you have, then God may give you more, and then you can help people at a greater level.
Yeah, that's what I learned with that parable, is that we all are given a measure, some talent, every last one of us, whether it's one talent, two talents, five. So we have to let it grow, not bury it. So that's all we're saying. And so as we try to explore who we are, take time to make an inventory. What are your strengths? What is my strength? What is my weakness? And then we match that up with what we would like to go into and the courses that we might take. And you might not be clear on the choices, what course to take necessarily. Should you go to a community college at first if you're not sure? That's okay, versus a 4-year college, et cetera. All these things, we want to make sure that we have a sense of introspection. We ask God for direction, but God can reveal to us where it is that we're strong, where we're weak, so our strength. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Our strength wasn't in having a lot of brain power and being studious at first. We could tell you that that's not how things started, but we were diligent. One thing we learned very early in life is to be punctual, to have 100% attendance, to be present. And of course, that served us well. And there were other things that we learned along the way growing up when we were your age. John, you want to talk about something that we learned way back in Africa, in Rwanda, to be specific, when we were 13, 14, 12, 13 there. Yeah. What do you want to say about that?
So my brother touched on something kind of important, maybe a little embarrassing, but hey, why not talk about it? We weren't very studious at all. We were just the exact opposite of studious, and we were not disciplined per se. But when we went to Rwanda, which was the first African country we went to in Central Africa to do missionary work, a very small country, poor country at the time, we started learning what discipline was. There was a practice called Indoha in Kinyarwanda, which is the language spoken there, where kids our age would knock on our door at 5 a.m. in the morning, literally would get up, get out of bed, and go study outside at 5 a.m. And I think we were 11, 12, around that age. That was completely foreign to what we were used to or would like to do, but with time we learned the discipline of first waking up early, studying early, and getting that routine of doing it daily, that Indoha. So that would serve us well. And like my brother said, we did have for our, say chapel and other things in class were perfect attendance when we were at Andrews University. And my brother may recall that we did take some classes at Andrews where there were just two of us, my brother and I. There were some small classes. For example, we took a French literature course where it's just my brother and I attending that course, or a botany course. And so sometimes we did debate whether we should not come and be absent just so that the class would shut down, but we didn't do that. We still showed up. So everyone has strengths, and if we use those strengths, we will do well.
Let me put a plug into the early hours. As my brother said, studying early hours is excellent, meaning you have to sleep early. Having a prayer life and praying, getting up early and praying, that's what Christ did, right? He would get up early and pray. That's when the mind is more fresh. So again, to do those things spiritually and academically means you have to sleep early. So that's a plug in terms of health practice, lifestyle. Some of the brightest people we knew, and to use the word GPA, that had great GPAs, knew how to sleep early and get up early, pray, and then study early. They just soaked up a lot of information. They just did well. And so while you need to know your strengths, you need to know what your weaknesses are too. One of the worst things you could do is not know yourself and then take courses, major in something that you had no business majoring in and wasting a lot of money a year or two. So what we're trying to say is in this preparation, besides having mentors, taking AP courses, honor courses, all that, take a little time with yourself. Know what God has given you as a talent, as a gift. What are you weak at? Guess what? All of us have weaknesses too. And so you can leverage it. Once you know what your strengths are, you know where you could be drawn to. If you know what your weaknesses are, first of all, you can work on those areas, but there are certain things you wouldn't want to do based on that as well. And then I'm going to say what excites you. You really have to have a sense of passion. Let me turn it over to my brother who knows what it's like to be passionate about something as we think about college readiness. What can you say about being excited about something?
Well, I think at your stage right now, before college, but certainly when you get to college, it's always good to know what excites you. Do you have a specific passion for something? For me, it started when at Andrews University, when I was in college, I picked up a book. Remember, we talked about reading, and the mind being stretched by new ideas. So I picked up a book, and it talked about the brain and what the brain is able to do. They called it the enchanted loom and the mysteries of the brain. There were some graphic representations of the brain, the different parts, and I really fell in love with that book. I said, wow, this is great. If you poke a little electrode in this part of the brain, you can recall things from many years ago, or you poke another part of the brain and you can see something that you've experienced before, that you've seen, and just the way the brain is arranged. So that excited me. And from that moment, I said, you know what? I want to be a neurologist. And everything I did from that moment was based on the desire to become a neurologist. So I, talked to people, neurologists, and said, hey, can I shadow you? Can I follow what you do? I read more books. I've, done all types of things. That's what excited me. For some people, it may be something else. It may be engineering. It may be law. It may be theology. And by the way, my brother and I were very fascinated by theology. And I'll admit we spent even more time studying theology on the side than we did our pre-med courses, because we love that. But find what excites you, and that'll allow you to spend the time, the energy, the mental resources needed so that you can develop these.
So that's a good point. So when we were in Africa, we would come here for furlough. That is a vacation, missionaries so since we were here in the United States, we came back. So after 7 years, let's say 3 years into it, we came here for a summer, and we went to the General Conference building there at the time in Maryland. And in the cafeteria, I remember one day where I saw a doctor, a Black doctor. He was in scrubs. I think he was a surgeon, but he was a doctor, in the career. And I looked at the man and I was totally transfixed. I was admiring his career, what he was doing. And guess what? I was so enthralled, looking at the stethoscope over his neck and, the white coat and how he was going into patient's room to help the patient. I said, that is what I want to do. And my admiration for this person was so powerful that I think his eyes locked into mine, and he knew without even sharing a word that I was passionate and that I was going to go in that career. I think we communicated that with just that look, intense look. What we're saying is, if it's music, if it's whatever field of endeavor you want to go into, make sure that it's something that you're passionate about. If you don't like, if so-and-so says you should go in it because parents think so or something, it has to be something that you feel drawn to. If you don't know what that is, ask God for a sense of direction, because once you're passionate about it, you are going to do very well. So, excuse me. So there's an African proverb that says, and I like this, it says, man, know yourself. Know yourself. That's the proverb. Know yourself. Or woman, know yourself. Or a young person, know yourself. Do you know who you are? Do you know what makes you tick? Do you know what you're good at? Do you know what you should be doing? Do you know what you should major in? To know these things, you just really have to know who you are, your place on the planet. Remember, God has a plan for each one of us. It's just a matter of taking time out to try to figure out what it is that God wants us to do. John, do you want to say anything else about that?
Sure. So we want to know about ourselves, what we're called to do. And as we think of college life and our future career, if you really want to make it big, and let me give you a little secret, if you really want to make it big and succeed to the highest level possible, don't just think about your career, but think about your calling. Again, I said earlier, there may be something that you're able to do better than anyone else on the planet, but if you can know what that is and nurture that gift. Well, it's not just about career and calling, but about your calling. And so for me, for instance, I mentioned that as a neurologist, I love the brain, and I've also loved the idea of working with special needs kids with developmental delay, speech delay, autism. That fascinates me to the point where, although I'm able to make a decent living as a physician in neurology, I'll tell you another secret. I could do it all for free without getting one penny, and I would be just as happy, because for me it's a calling. It's something that I feel that I'm able to do in a way that I can help people in need. And so find out what your calling is, not just your career. And in fact, when it comes to college life and courses and classes and what you're going to major in, what you're going to minor in, be careful, because if there's something you really enjoy doing and that you can couple that with your career and make a good living, that's ideal, that's great. Sometimes, though, you may pick something that's kind of a hobby that you like, you enjoy, but may not use that desire, that type of field to really make a good living or a decent living. So always in your mind, know what do you consider a hobby, something you do on the side for fun that brings you enjoyment, versus something that will be a career that you can also find employment in. That's very important nowadays. If you're fortunate, you can combine the two. In other words, something that really that you're very passionate about, that motivates you, that you're enthusiastic about, and that could also be a field of endeavor, a field where you can make a good living at the same time. So, but just know what your calling is, and you'll do very well.
All right, so let me just share with you one little experience that'll get your attention, just to show you how powerful it is to know what you're meant to do and to put all your soul and might into it. My brother, JEAN-RONEL, I remember when he was just starting college there, he was looking under the microscope at something, this is a big word, called Drosophila melanogaster. Okay, that's a big word for fruit flies. He was looking at, fruit flies. Let's keep it simple, fruit flies, but under the microscope. And he was trying to see, how do we look at female fruit flies, male fruit flies? How do they propagate? And I think he probably spent 40, 45 minutes without even raising his neck. He was so intent. They're looking at the microscope. What is the point I'm making here? He knew that he had to get the science of it, to dissect, to look at the intricacies of our Creator through the minutia of the microscope. And someone happened to be looking at my brother, not at his face. His face was down, looking down at the microscope, but the intensity that my brother had, and he was just a freshman, but the intensity of looking at the microscope, looking at those fruit flies for nearly an hour. You know what she said? This classmate of ours, I still remember the statement. She says, I just know that one day you're going to be a medical doctor. I just know it. And guess what? We did become a doctor. Yeah. So I know our time is running short. So we're going to open it up to questions. But again, just know that we just wanted you to know that there are resources out there. If you need some guidance online, for instance, there's a career coach, ONET online focus too for career planning. So nowadays there are things that could help guide us into the track that we should do, but you have to spend time asking God for what his will is. We know that there's STEM courses if you're so inclined with technology and science, STEM for science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are good skills. Or you may be wanting to do more artwork. That's STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. What we're trying to say is we probably need to combine both these days. A little bit more science with art, a little bit more art infused into science. That's how we look at life, doing both. So I think with that said, John, do you want to, I was going to also talk a little bit, our time is a little short, about our heritage. Know where you come from too, your background. So in our case, we're Haitian background, and learn the history of Haiti, the language, Haitian Creole, know the history. One of the most fascinating histories, I think, is that of Haiti. Okay? If you're from another country, learn it well. Know what flows through your blood, your ancestry. That gives a lot of power. John, would you like to conclude for us a concluding thought? Then maybe we can open it up to questions if we have time.
Yes. Well, I just hope that everyone will take what we said and know that, you can succeed and do very well. Now, when I say succeed, success does not bring happiness, but if you're happy, if you have that zestfulness, happiness will bring success. So with that, I think we will open it up for questions. If you have any questions on what we said or anything that's related, we'll try to answer those questions.
Let's have a quick one. This is for Dr. Jean-RONEL. I am addressing him because he's probably 30 seconds younger than Paul. Don't answer that. Don't answer that. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When I did my presentation, I shared with the youth that there in Andrews University, as you deal with anatomy and the nervous system, Dr. RONEL, I had a plot of land. I planted lettuce, cabbage, carrots, kale, and there is where I learned my scriptures and even preach my sermon there to the plants and the birds, of course, that were around, and just memorize my sermons as I go back into class. As you know, I was just training to be a pastor there, and just talk to God. But that gave me a lot of relief because that studying was just, Hebrew and the Greek, giving me gray hairs early. So what I wanted to ask you, and any of you could answer it, both of you can answer it. As you go, because neurology, what was your sense of release, to just, as you said, keep this balance, and still focus on the intensity of your study of what you were doing?
Yes, that's a wonderful question, Pastor Ryan. So at Andrews, we were pre-meds, and we didn't yet have a lot of exposure to, the core of medicine, which would come later. But as early as Andrews, just like you were steeped in Greek and other, languages like that, and finding a release with the plants and studying. For us, interestingly enough, it was theology. In other words, even though that was not in our curriculum, we would just go to the James White library and just, go to the, forget which floor it was, and study, just get books on religion and different things. And that gave us a little balance. It was just, it allowed us to get some release, if you will. And so from a college perspective, we encourage that. We encourage our young folk later on in college, just like you said, Pastor Ryan, to do other things too, to get that balance. Now, oddly enough too, when I went to medical school, we were a little frightened because they told us in medical school you have to learn lots of material in a relatively short period of time. But after a lot of thought and prayer, I decided to do a concomitant interdisciplinary health and humanities master. And for me, that was a release because while I was studying science, medicine, I would then do other things like anthropology, sociology, and that allowed me to get that balance that I needed. And so all throughout our career, we had this balancing act that allowed us to keep a level head and things like this. So we encourage the young folk to be well-rounded and to do things. And it may be sports activities, physical activities, gardening, other types of things that can bring that equilibrium that we think is helpful. Paul, do you have some time?
Yeah, let me add to, this may be unexpected, but I'll say too, we had a release was our parents. They were there. Our mom, CORBIER, and all our dad, they were there with us and they had our backs. We had the moral support, and so we always had that safety net. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing is we did play a lot of outdoor things, activities, sports, because you do need the fresh air. Sister Evelyn was mentioning health, we played basketball outdoors. Indoors, we played ping pong. I remember us playing a lot of ping pong in Birmingham Hall. So we did these types of outdoor physical activities. We like to go up to the planetarium. Just the walk up there was nice, and looking at the stars, the telescope, or just nature. So we loved the outdoors as well. I think we had a variety. We would go cycling. There's a lot of beautiful places there in Berrien Springs. So we had our little 10-speed bicycle. We would go out there. So that was a release for us too.
I have a question.
Yes, Sister Evelyn.
While our youth are out there in college and they don't have the parents to tell them, you know, this is the best diet to have, and then they have, what could you suggest to them while you are there?
In college, yeah. I was thinking about this point. You mean in terms of diet and health-related things?
Yes.
Okay. The best thing, Sister Evelyn, because I was just pondering this, is if someone waits to make lifestyle decisions, nutrition, diet, even exercise, and so forth, while in college, you're going to fail, you know? So it's better to develop these things right now. So in terms of nutrition and diet, you know, there are such things as health coaches, people, nutritionists. It's good. Our health message talks a lot about that. However you acquire the information, when you acquire it, and the lifestyle that you develop should be before college. So my emphasis is not what you do exactly, but how you do it. Same for sleep. If you have a habit of sleeping early, it's better to keep that habit and not be swayed in college. If you have an exercise routine and a time that you do it, it tends to become a habitual thing. The same for your diet. So you have to make a commitment in terms of eating clean, wholesome. You know, there's a tendency, I'll use the word pizza, you know, let's just grab a pizza and call it because we're all busy, or drink sodas. So you want to have that kind of lifestyle of eating wholesome, nutritious diet, balanced diet, and having a balanced lifestyle before going to college. So I stress the word before. John, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll add that for our youngsters, one thing to consider when it comes to food, nutrition, and diet is look at food as information. Food is information. So the type of food that you put in your body will either provide good information, as in sharper brain, sharper memory, so you can do better in your coursework and your classwork, feeling better, better digestion, better sleep. Or if it's a poor choice of food, for example, fast foods, then that information that'll be put into the body will be bad information that can then disrupt metabolism, brain function. I mentioned that I like the field of nutritional neurology, so there are foods that can help enhance how you think, how you feel, your emotions, your stamina. So if the young folk think about that, about food in terms of information, then that'll help you with your choices of foods. The more colors, the better. The more diversity, the better. The more lively the food, instead of something dead, then the better off it is. Not skipping meals, which we may have a tendency to do, that's not good either, unless you're fasting, say, for religious reasons. So thinking about it that way can be of great help.
And New Start, let's just quickly say New Start is a principle that you really should take with you to college, but start it now. So again, New Start, and for nutrition, make sure you have the best nutrition for you. E for exercise, you should develop a good, simple, solid exercise routine. W for water, you should always keep yourself well hydrated, hopefully water being your main beverage. S for sunshine, spend a little time outdoors getting that vitamin D, you need it. You don't want to be stuck indoors studying only. You want to carve out a little time for the sunlight. T for temperance. So there are things that need not be in our bodies. And even if something is good, too much of a good thing could be a problem. So you want to be temperate. You know, you don't want to get into the habit of taking any stimulants, caffeinated things just to stay up. That makes no sense. Get rest. A for air, breathing fresh air. You know, Dr. Ryan, when you said you were out there in the garden, praying, you know, looking at your plants and so forth, that's fresh air too, right? You were breathing out there, weren't you, Pastor Ryan? Yeah, there we go. Rest, you got to sleep. Again, we emphasize getting plenty of sleep. You'll learn better, you'll retain better, and trust in God. God will help you make the right decisions. Don't trust in what you think you can do, but trust in your Creator. So New Start. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
Yes.
cousin.
can you be in a, that's happened sometimes that you are already in a career and then you feel like, oh, I missed my vocation. I was not called for this and I want to change. And then you already you practice for a long time and then now you feel inside of you, wow, I have to change my career. If you already in the, in your 30s, how can you change it? Give me how can you, what can help you to now choose your career, the one that you were called to work, to help? I can do that.
Yeah, so that's a good question because cousin, this is our cousin, Shishi, so welcome to the program. Yes, so if someone's already engaged in a career and all of a sudden there's a little voice that says, you know what, that's not my true calling. My true calling is something else, but I'm already engaged, advanced, I spend a lot of time. It could be very difficult because then you say, well, it's going to take a lot of time, money, and a lot of doubts. However, my belief is that if you're engaged in something that's not your true calling, it's not too late to change. It's not too late to change because it behooves us to do what we're really called to do, because only then will we be very satisfied, fully satisfied. The medical school we went to in East Lansing, Michigan State, it was a very interesting medical school because there were older individuals that had other careers. Some were engineers, others were lawyers, but then they said, no, we want to go into medicine. So that school allowed them to, even in their older age, to then transition. It was tough because they had to do a lot of studying and things like that. But there are many instances where someone's not in their right career, even though they're far along, doing something else. But it's always very, very important to do what you're called to do so that you can be the best version of yourself that you could really reach mankind in an ideal way. So if your question is pertaining to you, cuz, don't worry, we can talk about it and see how we can ease to something else.
I am in the right field because I'm helping a lot of people. It's a noble profession to work in the medical field, because you help others. But I see something like sometimes like I feel guilty too because not like guilty, but I see like the conventional medicine. I don't agree with a lot of things with them. Like sometimes I see my patient taking this pill, the doctor just say, take this pill. And then they take the pill forever, they don't get better or they get worse. Or if they get better, it's just for a short period of time. However, I feel that like, okay, if the patient were educated, like sometimes I'm trying to do my best to educate them, like they take the pill with coffee. But they don't educate them. You don't take, blood pressure pills with coffee. But they don't know. As a nurse, I'm doing extra job now to explain to them, no, don't take it. But they already, like it's hard for them to understand what I'm telling them, I'm explaining to them because they get used to it. Like, my patient have high blood sugar and then, they keep eating, those. They say, oh, I don't take pap, but I take diet pap. Oh, please, you have like thousands of chemical in this, those diet pap because, it's a lot of things to learn. It's a lot of things to explain to them. But, I feel like sometimes I'm a nurse, but I want to be a naturopath. I feel I am called to be a naturopath. Yeah, and then I'm like, oh my God,
That's right. So I had the same type of experience, even as a neurologist, a pediatric neurologist, because a lot of things I had been doing were good, some of the things, but there were times I felt that I needed to do something more natural, more alternative. And so what I ended up doing is leaving the hospital system to open up my own clinic. And there I could do things exactly 100% my way, spend more time with patients, use more natural approaches. And I could still combine the good part that exists in the traditional, but then the part that requires more natural approaches, safer approaches, spending more time with patients, educating them, using a more biomedical approach. I've been able to do that. So sometimes we may need to just tweak some things or get a little more autonomy that allows us to do things the right way. Let me also use your question, Cousin Shishi, to tie it into something about college courses. Sometimes if someone's majoring in something, whether it's pre-med or pre-law or nursing or something else, you can sometimes end up taking courses that may seem irrelevant, but that may turn out to be very useful. So I think of the computer person, Steve Jobs, who moved mountains when it came to the computer world. And so he took in college a calligraphy course on how to write fancy. And that came in very handy when he was developing computer programs and things like that. But at the time he says, I'm going to opt into a course, and didn't know how he would use it. And so also remember that what we learn, our interests and impulses, we can bring that to fruition and optimize on that down the road. So. But always listen to your inner voice and give it full expression so that you can really do what you enjoy and what you're called to do.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Our other cousin.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
How are you doing, Danny?
I'm all right, by God's grace.
Okay.
How soon can a student start with dual enrollment or what you call concurrent enrollment? How soon?
Paul, you want to do that one?
Ari did it, but she was, I think, in 9th or in junior year. How soon can they start?
Paul, you
Yes, and honestly, I'm not versed in exactly how soon beyond that. I would think some point in high school, someone else may be able to. Now, the reason that we don't know for sure is we were never in the system ourselves. We've just tried to catch up and see what others are doing now. Does anyone know? I'm sure some of you who may be does anyone else want to try to tackle how soon was the earliest you think we could start? Certainly in high school, I think, but dual enrollment. I would personally think it'd be somewhere in your junior, senior year, certainly senior year, possibly junior. I doubt freshman, but is anyone here aware of someone who could, as early as their freshman year of high school, take dual enrollment? I would think not, but I could be wrong.
It's not dual in enrollment, but by as early as 8th grade, you could start doing AP classes. You can start doing Algebra 1, even in 8th grade, Math 1. So they have right now certain, because I'm a teacher at the public schools here in Union County, North Carolina. So yes, by 8th grade, they kind of open you to that. There are students who that I know who I have taught. They're now in 8th grade, but what they're doing courses that will, and like a curriculum, matriculate kind of idea that is aligned with a high school idea. So they're in 8th grade, but it's like they're doing high school at the same time. So by the time they get to 9th grade, some of the courses that they were supposed to take in 9th grade, they've already done that in 8th grade because they were doing this dual application there in 8th grade. They don't call it necessarily that, but it's an idea that or a principle that I see carry out in the schools here in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's good. And I think with the AP courses, the advanced placement, the credits count when you do that. So it counts towards things. So yeah, so I think there's a difference between AP, advanced placement, versus dual enrollment. And so I like what you're saying. AP makes probably even more sense than dual enrollment, because that could be challenging of literally having to go to to college environment. Maybe that's one advantage of being the college environment, but getting courses like, as you said, Pastor Ryan, algebra, physics, and so forth, advanced classes help. So Danny, what Ari, our niece there, how did she take AP courses or dual enrollment? What did she do? You're
Sorry,
on mute.
she's
Yeah.
coming to talk. She's
Okay.
coming. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Joelle. This is
How are
Joelle
you?
Janvier, and I'm David Corbier's friend, and he
Okay.
invited me to this conference. So thanks, David,
And
for inviting
David is
me.
here.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Oh,
That's
hi.
good.
How are you doing?
hello. Oh,
So
hi. How are you?
I think that's such an excellent program that you are doing. So I have my nephews and my niece, and everybody's watching. So
Oh, excellent.
it's really awesome. And I think that as early as high school, as you mentioned, that now there are more opportunities for students to have to take dual enrollment, which is really good because they've already now investing that time. Because in high school, I wish that I could do dual enrollment where I would just graduate with an associate degree and then I don't have to waste all these additional general college courses to continue my study. But my sister, my sister's daughter, is actually taking dual enrollment. So I'm gonna let my sister just share a little bit about that since you mentioned that. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Great.
Yeah, and tell us the year how early the year.
How early she started? I went to Miami-Dade and I went to FIU, and she could have started as early as 10th grade. But the thing is she had to already did all the high school prerequisite, which she did, because what we did is in the summer, because she was very good at math, actually she wanted to be a neurosurgeon. So I'm so happy to listen to this. So that's why we were more advanced on it with her. We wanted her to start and finish as early as possible. She's gonna get an early start. So I went to FIU. So we started to give her class from 8th grade to 9th grade. So she skipped a lot of math class. So in the summer, instead of being here doing nothing, even though we travel, we take 1 month for her to go and take extra classes so she can move on faster. So now, right now, she's taking college courses. She's only in 11th grade, already taking a lot of college courses. So when she graduated in 12th grade, she would graduate with an associate degree.
Wow.
So right now, which means that she, after high school, she could actually start, finish with associate and move on to bachelor. To more, yeah. So that's what we're doing for her, because she wanted to be exactly what you are, which I didn't even know. I'm just learning that now. I didn't. But so we wanted her to get an early start.
Okay, so as early as 10th grade. Okay, great. So good. That's excellent information. We're learning something. That's great.
Thank you. Ari wanted to say something too.
All right.
So you asked the question, you asked if she did AP or whatever. She's here, she'll answer. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Ari,
you.
yeah.
And thank you, Luis, too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Oh, hey,
Hello, how are
Ari,
you?
how's it going?
Hi, Uncle Paul. It's great to see you.
Oh, great to see you.
So I had the opportunity to take dual enrollment classes. I think I started in sophomore year, so 10th grade. I took AP classes. I took IB classes. My school was an IB school, so International Baccalaureate. So I had the opportunity to do that, and I was able to go into college as a sophomore, which was pretty great.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're very proud of Ari, very smart, doing well. So yeah, keep up the good job. She's a scholar there.
Right.
Yeah.
So historically, as we said, it started out with this senior year, but it looks like it's moved all the way down to sophomore year, as several people are attesting to. But that brings up another point, and that is there are individuals that are gifted and they have a thirst for knowledge and are able to master a lot of information early. So it's very important, if someone is able to go far and faster, that they engage in that. Some people learn at a faster rate. So whether dual enrollment, and some people, they take quite a lot of college courses even earlier sometimes. So just consider that as an option if that suits you.
I have a question for cousin Gigi. When you started going to nursing school, how did you get your what they call relevé de notes? So sorry, transcripts. How did you go about getting that?
Well, I took, first of all, I went to the City College of Chicago. This is where I found a professor that, because my goal was to become only on LPN. And then she really really helped me. She said, no, you can go for a bachelor. You are smart. I'm like, no, because I don't speak English very well. I don't have money. I found all kind of excuses. So it was her who really helped me to enroll in the university. So she did almost everything for me, because seriously, I would not do it. I did not feel like doing it, because I feel like I cannot become, a nurse. I mean, to have a bachelor in this country, I don't have nothing to. I mean, I don't have, the main thing, English, financial possibility, and a lot of things were, I told her all the things that was against me. So she was the one who just take me, send the letters, it was God putting her on my way. Send the letters to the 3 universities, gather my transcript, everything that she was like pushing me. And then I ended up being enrolled at the Chicago State University. So she took all my transcript, whatever they asked me, the transcript, she helped me to get it from City College of Chicago. And then, she was the one that really helped me to do everything. So that's how I but the best thing is, even though I was complaining that I was not really I was not able to get into university, but every time when I get my grade, I used to have a good grade. I don't know how. God helped me, and then that's from then. I think I had a good grade for my GPA. And when she enrolled me in 3 universities, I was accepted into all of them. But it's to get the transcript. It was just sit. On my grade, from City College of Chicago, and then they just send it to the universities. And I was surprised that I was accepted in all of them. I was like, okay, but that is God's grace, because with my age, English is my second language, and I'm not as smart as Ariel, as your kid, as my cousins. So it was God's help. Yeah, and now I'm enrolled in the psychiatric mental health psychiatric program, because I feel that I can be, I can help this population, and we will have more and more people with psychiatric problem now in the world, and I think I'm going to be needed. But but this was the same thing. The transcript is because they at my university. That's why I encourage all the kids here, because myself, I don't speak English very well. I was not born in this country. When I came in this country, I came in my late 30s. That means if I can do this, you can do better. Why not? Yeah, and with God's grace, you can do better. Yeah.
Praise the Lord. Thank you.
Okay, I have something to say real quick for every parent that is on this line. I just want to let you know that, when I was talking about my daughter doing enrollment, it's also cost effective. It means that while the kids in high school and they're taking those college courses, it is a free program. So that means there's nothing for the parents to pay. And that's why I urge every parent to take opportunity, because it's something that can you just imagine not paying 1 full year of college, 2 years of college? That your kids can do it while they're in high school. Is free. As long as they're going to a public school, they can enroll in any university that accept them to do a dual enrollment. And most of those grades starts at 3.0 on unweighted GPA. They can start, and parents can save a lot of money. And their kids can have great education. Even, sometimes you have kids, you've seen a lot of kids, they go to school, and then by the time they get to finish high school, they say, oh, I don't want to go to college. But if the parents is already on top of it and making sure they're taking these classes, oh, okay, well, then you know what? You graduated. They already graduated with an associated degree. So they already have a college degree in their hands. They can get some type of job. So I urge every parent to take opportunity in that and make the best of it.
That's a great point. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. But in Massachusetts, I want to say that when Ari went started her dual enrollment, I had to pay something. So I don't know if states are different, but I had to pay for the course. For
It
when
depends on the school. Some school in Florida, you do pay, you just have to find the community college or the university that accepts it. That is, so I mean, so every state has the program. You just have to find the school that does do it at no cost, because FIU also do it. You have to pay, but in the summer it's free. See, there is choices. You just have to keep elaborating and ask more questions, and then you will get the right answers. I ask a lot of questions. I'm a person that there's no stupid questions. I always ask a lot of questions, and that's how we become more knowledgeable of what's out there and what we can what we can take advantage of.
I like that last point about questions. In fact, there's a little saying that the only stupid question is the unasked question. So always ask questions when you go to college, or even right now, ask questions. That'll always enrich your life. And I'd like to also take this opportunity to make an impromptu special announcement. Pastor Ryan, can I make that announcement? So we have our cousins here, Dani Bien-Aimé and Gigi, that have asked questions. But there's also someone else here who's very special to me, and that is my fiancée, future wife, Mrs. Muriel Cassin, soon to be Mrs. Muriel Cassin-Corbier, and she's all the way in France, in Paris, and just want to do a little shout out and say hello.
Hi. Congrats, cousin. Congrats.
Yes. And I use this opportunity to say that in college, there's a mixture of everything, learning, but love as well. And so that's a little demonstration of that. So welcome.
But something that I see, I have to share with you guys, because when I get into the university, I was in as I said, my late 30s, early 40s. But what I see that is what I learned in Haiti, because I could not understand sometimes what the teacher will teach. However, everything that I learned in Haiti, I had a very good background. And I'm surprised that my chemistry course, I was having A's only because of what I had in Haiti. Even I struggle with math in Haiti. When I came here, math was like so easy for me. And I see the kids here struggling with chemistry and math. And I think I think that as a parent, you have to I don't know, supervise the kids. I don't know what was wrong, because I wonder why. I don't even understand, half of what the professor was telling, but because I remember what I learned in Haiti, and I had A's, and those kids here, a lot of them did not pass the class. And they went to school, and they were asking me, how do you understand that? Because they know that I did not speak English very well. I told them, because I learned it in my country. So I am not sure. I'm not sure what was the problem, but I see there was a lot of problem that I was surprised for mathematics and chemistry, and they beat me in English, but for chemistry and math, they could not. Yeah. So I think. I don't know why. I don't know why. What's the problem here for these kids to struggling like that with those science classes? I'm not sure. When they have the best laboratory, all this kind of thing, and I don't know. So that is something as parents, when you want your kids to be successful in science, because I saw it in my when I was in school, and they have to be supervised for science class, because they struggle, even though we were in the same classes, and I was shocked. Yeah.
Can I just interject, doctors, for just 1 second? Gigi, what this is, as a public teacher, as a public school teacher here in Union County, they don't put importance on chemistry and science. See, they stress math, as a core class, reading, and then give you an option. PE, you know, that's gym, science, or social studies. And most students choose social studies.
Oh.
You see? So by the time they get to high school, they have no idea what science is because they were given this option in middle school and high school. Why giving them an option? Allow them to take all the courses, but they are given an option. You pass science, you must pass math, you must pass reading, and science or social studies, you make a pick, and then gym or, you know, PE.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
That's a good point, because we studied, as we said, in Ivory Coast, in the French system, we had to take it all. So that's a good point. We took science. We didn't think twice about it. We had to take science, the arts and sciences, chemistry, math, etc. In high school too. In fact, in high school, we were more into a more literature type of art orientation. But even then, we took enough science courses that, and as you said, Gigi, that when we came here as pre-meds, the math, including calculus and all these things, physics, chemistry, they weren't that hard. Why? Because we had been exposed to it. So that brings a point that even in this system, you still want to make sure that high school is geared towards having that balance of courses, science courses, literature courses. That balance is needed, including science, for sure.
Any other questions? Or I'm not sure. How much time do we have, Pastor Ryan?
Well, I got one more question.
Sure.
So Evelyn, you answer that.
Well, you know, when I was studying, I had to take some supplement, some supplement to help me to focus. What's your advice for the kids? Because they say when you are in the medical school, when I was buying the supplement, they were telling me, oh, you know, the medical school, they buy this one. You know, it's so. They say they are more focused. They have better memory. As a neurologist, now for the kids, you know, who wants to be successful, what kind of supplement you can suggest?
Well, the supplements, that's a good question. I think the supplements have to be based on or predicated on, first of all, a good diet. So a good varied diet, and including good fats. Now, when I say good fats, these are your omegas, omega-3s. Those are very important. Nutrient that provide adequate B vitamins. And then on top of that, if the diet is already sufficient, but that you need something to help more with memory and sharpness and things like that, I think a B complex could be very useful. The B complex, B12, folic acid, B6, they're very helpful for energizing the brain through the mitochondria. Coenzyme Q10, CoQ10 is very important too. It helps with brain function, antioxidant function. That can help. We talked about omegas. A good fish oil can also help. There are other supplements that are more specific. We call those nootropics. Nootropics are brain-enhancing supplements. For those, it would be good to be under the care of either nutritionist or provider supplement who understands these things. Sometimes you may need some blood tests to see if there's a deficiency. In addition, other than the dietary supplements that we call nutraceuticals, there's also what we call electroceuticals. Electroceuticals are using simple devices to stimulate the brain, for example, the memory. So anyone who has a cell phone can get an app called the Brainwave app. So there are applications for memory, for focus, for attention, and other things. So the good news is nowadays there's some very simple, inexpensive ways to enhance brain function, starting with the basic things and the New Start principles, but then certain nutraceuticals or dietary supplements that we mentioned, and also electroceuticals or stimulatory things for the brain that are all safe and that work.
Someone just asked a question here that I saw flash in there. about sleep too. Sleep is like taking a supplement. If you don't sleep well, forget about your memory the next day. And this person said they took melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that can help induce sleep, and even that's not working for that person. So it's kind of a question that requires more one-on-one. But in general, if you're not sleeping well and you can't sleep well, that needs to be assessed. One of the simple things we recommend sometimes is tracking your sleep, making sure you're getting the deep stages of sleep, REM sleep. If you're not, then we need to look at that and making sure there are supplements that can help too. But is that making an effort to sleep early? That's important, because if you don't sleep well, I can tell you that in college what people do is then they rely on stimulants, to really enhance things. And that's really not what we were intended to take. So again, we really want to make sure we're sleeping well. If you're not sleeping well, talk to someone who can help you to see what the limitations are. If you do get a good night's sleep, then your brain will work much better.
And just a little word on the melatonin. It's always important to make sure you're getting the right dose of melatonin. Some people dose it way too high, or some people don't take enough melatonin. 3 milligrams an average dose. We like to go up to 6 milligrams on average, but not too high, because if you get too much melatonin, that can shut down the pineal gland, which produces your natural melatonin. You should take melatonin 30 minutes to 1 hour before bedtime. But if that does not work, you can take it earlier, around dinner time, say around 6 p.m. And then that can work with the brain to enhance its own melatonin production. So sometimes something like a melatonin can work better if you take the right dose and you have the right timing. And also diet and caffeine, you have to make sure these things are not hindering sleep.
Louder.
Sorry?
Yeah, can I say something? I don't want to talk too loud because of Enoch, but I remember when I was in college, I was having some difficulty for sleeping too. Anyways, I don't take coffee. I have two things to say. I wanted to ask, what about coffee, the consumption of coffee? I don't take coffee usually, but sometimes I'm tempted to take coffee if I want to study for something and I want to focus. But I would suggest the person that is having problem to sleeping not to take melatonin or anything for sleeping. The best treatment for that is exercise. You can do it a week, a month. It doesn't work, keep on pushing. Doing hardcore exercise. Go slow because you know what your heart can take. And you can do you can run for 30 minutes and you increase it for an hour, 45 minutes. And at the end, I wouldn't get discouraged. And anyways, when you're in school, you will face your battle, friends. You will face your battle because reality, like I've been saying, you're going to have trouble sleeping because, if you have a passion and you're ambitious, somehow you have to. This anxiety is going to kick on and you're going to find yourself awake at night when you want to sleep. So what I would do, I would just run the school track. Get up in the morning, run the school track twice a day. Yeah, twice a day I would do it. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I would do it, beat myself. And then eventually I would fall asleep. And then I would take egg, nutmeg, and then a little piece of lime, and then put on some milk and blend it for more strength. And then for sleep, nutmeg helps with sleep. And then I would sleep eventually. So you have to keep on exercising hard, sweat, make your body tired. Naturally, you should fall asleep. So, but one question I have for you both, Corbier, what about coffee? Sometimes I'm tempted to take coffee because I see that it's good, but I see also when I read it's not too bad. Is it bad or is it not too bad?
Yeah, it's a trap. So caffeine is a stimulant, and it can, some people take it to become more alert and stimulated, but it's overall not that great for the body. Nowadays, there's some people are advocating that it's a rich antioxidant, but the stimulatory effects isn't really that great. So I understand your temptation if you're saying I need to be alert. I find a lot of people in college depend on coffee and caffeinated drinks, sodas and all that. because they don't have the right balance of sleep and the anxiety that you mentioned. So when that's all messed up and then they wake up tired, then they say, okay, now we need a boost with that. So we would advocate more, first of all, making sure, as you said, so if we said to make sure that one gets enough sleep. The stress reduction, one way of doing it in college is not to procrastinate. But if you stay ahead of your study schedule and you're studying, you're doing your best ahead of time, there'll be less stress, because when you're under stress, your body keeps you awake by releasing cortisol and other things that wakes you up in the middle of the night, messes up your cycle, hormones messes you up and you get up. Whereas if you're in control, you're praying, you have a good, decent lifestyle, you're exercising as you're saying, that balance of hormones can help you sleep better. So to me, caffeine is a trap, because if one starts getting caffeine, then they'll say to be more stimulated, we need even more and more. The idea is to be more rested, to not require that stimulant, and to be alert. There are natural types of things that could make us feel alert and revved up beyond caffeine that can really create havoc on our system and in our heart, make our heart race at times if one overdoses on caffeine and so forth. So there may be some natural ways. There's what we call adaptogens and ginseng and things. B vitamins, if you get the right combination, it really makes you alert without the need to taking coffee or caffeine.
Yeah. Now, just the flip side, again, based on some research, is there are some studies, as my brother alluded to, but I want to develop that a little bit, that do show that coffee does have a lot of antioxidant function. So if used in moderation, if someone's a coffee drinker from a brain perspective, then we would recommend, instead of putting a lot of sugar and things like that have deleterious effects, to do what's called bulletproofing your coffee. Bulletproofing means that you would add some things like certain fats, like ghee butter, Ghee, ghee butter, high octane brain oil. It's an 8-carbon fatty acid. If you mix that with the coffee, then it actually becomes a substance, a beverage that can actually enhance brain function. I mentioned B vitamins. A B complex can also energize the body. CoQ10 can do the same thing, can rev you up in a positive way. So if you do these things, neuromodulation, ways to stimulate the brain. I mentioned that there are some apps on the phone. Some of these can also energize you. I do agree with exercise in helping with not just sleep, but revving up the body in a good way, and all of the New Start principles, water, air, reducing stress. So all these as a package can energize someone who's otherwise tired, but also help with sleep and other things. Going back to the melatonin does help. We do need melatonin for sleep, but if someone is not able to sleep despite doing everything that you should, then we do recommend that you see a medical doctor to rule out a sleep-related problem. There are illnesses, medical problems that can present with sleep that sometimes can be serious. So if you do all of the simple, regular things and you're still not sleeping, then you may need to have an evaluation to see if you have apnea, restless leg syndrome, and other conditions. So just be aware that an evaluation may be needed if you do not improve after doing all of the simple recommended things.
Okay. We are 5:45. I think we all can give a round of applause to the doctors. Thank you. Everybody, I think everybody has found interesting information for the questions that they had. And we thank you so much for taking the time for doing that for us. And I think we have one of our participants, Juan, who is going to say a few words.
I'd like to say thank you to the CORBIER twins for the information you provided for us today. One thing that I took in specifically on concept that you guys emphasized was balance. I think that's very important just in general for everybody. Diet, activities. I know in this generation, it's easy for some people to lose interest in one thing. Sometimes they feel themselves doing one thing too much. And I think that just opening yourself to different activities and new hobbies is an easy way to keep you just focused in general, having a balance. And thank you for the information you guys provided today. I hope everyone in the program learned something and took in some information that can benefit them in the future. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Juan.
very much, Kwan, for your words, your kind words. And we are at the end of the program, unfortunately. Every good thing has an end. And before we hear some closing words by our sister Priscille, Brother Corbier, Daniel, is going to make the final prayer for us.
Okay, let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful Sabbath afternoon that you've given us. Thank you for allowing us to learn new things about how to succeed in college and help all the young people be able to apply these principles so that they could do well and be with the parents as well. Be with all of us in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. And now, Sister Priscille, you can have the closing words for us.
Okay. Well, what I can say is thank you a lot. I like listening to these advice. They are good for you guys and for me. I'm still learning and we all are learning. So anyhow, what I can say, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Philippians 4:13. So friends, we've heard everything that, the doctors said. Having early devotion in the morning is the key that really brightens the day. It could be like not having a gloomy day, not feeling up to it, but having a good morning devotion sets up everything, chase all sort of confusion and distress. So always do that. We'll encourage you to do that. So once again, we thank you so much. God is with you, with all of us. There's nothing that can be against us. So like Brother Corbie or Pastor Corbie would say, nous praler pour vaincre, something like that. So may God bless you guys and have a good evening and enjoy the rest of the Sabbath.
Thank you.
Amen, amen, amen. Again, thank you to all of you, participants and friends coming. Hi, Gigi. So happy to see you.
Me too, a pleasure.
Okay, so I want to say to the parents here that we have this program every fourth Sabbath of the month up to the month of June. And the presentation we'll have in June and will be one, I hope that will interest all our youth, public speaking. And we also have a good presentation at next month. So I hope to see you all back to support our youth. And we adults, we see tonight, we have learned a lot of things for us also. So welcome to come back every fourth Sabbath of the month, the fourth Sabbath of the month from 4 to 6. And together we will support our kids and we will be proud of them. Our youth there, I did not hear you asking questions, but I'm sure that you have taken notes. And I'm sure that at the end, it will be for a good experience for you at college. Thank you again to all of you. Dr. Corbier, thank you. And congratulations for the good news that we heard tonight.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
You're
you.
so
I don't know, say Evelyn, we didn't get any cake.
That'll come later.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's a promise, right?
It's a promise.
It's a promise. Okay.
I know, JEAN-RONEL, I was supposed to say bonbon.
That's good.
I don't know a lot of sugar there, so we'll have to watch the sweets there.
And I must tell you that Frère Daniel Corbier and Sister Priscille and we are the one behind this program. And pray for us so that God can inspire us on how to help our youth better and better. And thank you all for participating. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, congratulations.
Hey,
Dr.
Dr. Winton, how are
How are
you?
you?